Geoffrey Eagar was one of the early treasurers in New South Wales after self-government in 1856. And he was very important, partly because he'd had banking experience, so he was a good in terms of financial management, but also he's a bit of a visionary. He was aware that the colony had to be opened up in some way. After the gold rushes of 1851, so many tens of thousands of people had come, and what do you do with all those who didn't find gold? Many of them rushed back to the city, but there wasn't enough jobs, so he was keen to open up the interior of the land, and he had a very clear sense of what needed to be done, how to build infrastructure and how to pay for that infrastructure. He was a very good treasurer because he could work out a way to face what you might call the major problem of every treasurer, how to allocate very scarce resources among competing demands. The colony of New South Wales operated via free trade, so export industries were very important. But to get the produce of the interior to the ports so it could be exported, you needed some way of getting the goods, the produce from the interior into the port. Roads in New South Wales for the first 30, 40, 50 years of the colony were terrible. Lots of just basically bullock tracks and things like that. Very slow. Getting the produce over the mountains, the Great Dividing Range, back to Sydney, took weeks. Now, if once the rail was in, you could get it there within 24 hours. And so railways offered the best way of getting all the products out of the interior into the port city of Sydney. Initially it was wool, then later wheat, and then after 1869, when the frozen meat trade came on, frozen meat could be exported to the metropolitan cities of England and Europe. The railways also were important in allowing the population to go out into the land. It allowed for regional development. A whole range of towns became cities in the interior. As it moved into the interior, it was obviously cutting across country. And country for the Indigenous people means something very different. For us Westerners, the capitalist society, it's just property for sale or lease. But for them, it's part of a whole cultural system. Now, while there's not much record of what happened to the Indigenous population in terms of the laying of the tracks, Everleigh Workshops soon became one of the largest employers of Indigenous New South Wales people. And it was very important for them. When they were taken off their land, removed from their tribal lands, there was a job opportunity for them in Sydney. The railways of the colony of New South Wales were initially able to be financed internally, largely because of the money from the land sales and leases and internal loans from within the colony. Gradually, as the rail network had to spread further and further inland, capital was needed. From the 1860s, they started to think about tapping into the London capital market. London, by the late 19th century, was the most important financial centre in the world. And of course, New South Wales was a very prosperous colony. So New South Wales had no trouble raising loans in London for the expansion of its rail network. New South Wales had been doing very well in borrowing overseas, but by the late 1880s, problems had started to occur internally. The expansion into the interior had to be financed in some way. So there was banks, there was building societies, and something they called land banks. And these had financed expansion out further and further. The problem was that further and further out, there was less return on the capital investment. So gradually, a lot of these land banks and building societies, and some of the big banks even, found that they weren't getting returns on their capital. So they had to start calling in loans. And once they started to do that, there was a bit of a domino effect. Externally, the London capital market also started to have problems. One of the major banks there, Baring Brothers, had been lending, apart from Australia, but to America and South America. And in the I think it was late 1880s, 1889, 1890, Argentina defaulted. And it was basically, in today's terms, on billions of loans, billions. So that had another repercussion back. Baring Brothers in London started to call its loans in from the colonies, and suddenly the banks in New South Wales all started to have to call in loans. And so it was just a domino effect leading to the whole depression.